Julianne Pelusi and Dan Kingerski on the platforms of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. And Dan, I have a little tip for you.
Okay.
Okay.
You got a
So if
tip
you
for me?
ever need a Canadian man to tell you, the women don't do it as much, but if you ever need to get a Canadian man out of his shell, just ask them about what injury ended their hockey career. And you,
That's
I
the same in
mean,
Pittsburgh. You like, oh, why didn't you play college football?
yes, it's oh yeah. What was that knee injury that you didn't play D1? Yeah, it's the same thing, and they'll go on for hours. Women are more humble; they don't need to talk about it for hours. The men will do it, and I just wanted to give that to you there. I know you spend a lot of time up north, so if you need an icebreaker, what ended your
No, I
career?
don't want icebreakers with Canadian guys. I want the icebreakers with Canadian girls. Come
Oh,
on,
yeah,
what do
I'm
you do?
working on that still.
See,
Working on
what
it.
good are no? See, you've already failed your test. That's it. Video over. Done. Out.
So, Kyle Dubas, his origin story begins with that hockey injury in Sault Ste. Marie. We got to listen to him on the Cam and Strick podcast, and I just thought that was so interesting how he came up in the Sioux. And what was it? His grandfather was with the team, and it just kind of matriculated in a way to him learning how to become a GM because life kept leading him back to this team in the Sioux.
Yeah, I found it was kind of an interesting story. But by the way, lovely circuitous segue into that. I like had no
Thank you.
idea where you were going, and
It was
then
a surprise.
you just tied it like a perfect bow there. Yeah, Kyle Dubas. I mean, like a lot of us in high school, taller and way too skinny for what we wanted to be. I think he mentioned, ninth, 10th grade, he was 5'4", $110, which actually was about the same size I was too. So I understand what it's like looking up at guys with mustaches all day long, and you're still. So he's playing hockey. He gets 3 concussions in 1 year. He can't go back and play hockey. He had been sort of a stick boy and an errand boy with the team, and not being able to go back and play hockey. Craig Hartsburg, who had a long career in the NHL and former NHL coach and is now a scout with the Columbus Blue Jackets, was running the Sioux Greyhounds at that point, and said, "Okay, now you're coming on board with us full time." Brings him into the coaches meetings and so on and so forth, and his career blossoms because he got his bell rung, because he wasn't big enough for
Yep.
good enough to play hockey. And obviously, any origin story, whether it's the villain or the hero, you have to have a skill for what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So uh, obviously, he was pretty good at it. He goes to college, doesn't there's not a job for him in the Sioux anymore, becomes an agent, absolutely hates being an agent, and lo and behold, the GM job opens up in the Sioux. And so, after being a scout for the Greyhounds and so on and so forth, he's the GM, and away he goes. And a few years later, he's with the biggest franchise in hockey, the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was kind of a cool story on the podcast. I liked it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed that. And I thought of that joke while I was listening to it because it is absolutely true. And that injury turned out to
Yeah.
be the best thing that could have happened to him. Like he was saying, he wasn't going to make it unless things really changed. He wasn't going to,
He
make
was
it
not going to be a professional hockey player. Not
right.
even close, right? Do you
Not
have an origin story? Because I've had a couple of those really fortuitous, almost like
okay.
fate kind of intervening in my career as well. I mean, do you have any crazy moment you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm out, and then it just pulls you in one direction?
Oh gosh. Well, I just remember I was leaving. So I was in Steubenville for a long time. Like,
At the
I
burb of the
think,
berg.
yeah, the Burb of the Berg for like 6 years. That's where John Buccigross became my mentor. We're going to have to get him on with us.
Heck yeah.
And that's his hometown. And yeah, I loved Steubenville. I had learned as much as I was going to learn there, and it was time to move on, and COVID hits, and nobody needs a sports anchor anywhere in the country. So I took a chance in myself. I didn't sign another contract, and I just was letting things be, really thinking that I might be done. Who knew what, COVID was going to do at this point? It's early 2020, and I worked at the Steubenville Country Club for the summer, and I was having a good time, man. I was having a really good time, and I was making about journalist money doing it. So, the only job that I think was open in the country was in Buffalo. And that started a new 3-year journey for me. And I loved my time up in Buffalo. And that's where I learned to ask, what injury ended your career?
Ah.
Yeah, the Buffalo folks are big on that too.
Kyle Dubas. He's a little bigger than 5'4" now.
Yeah.
I was shocked when we talked to him at the combine. He's actually taller than I am. I was like, wait a second. I never realized, I'm 6 foot in a fraction or something. And I was like, holy cow. But I actually gave up my radio career in 2005, coming out of the lockout. Just some stuff going on around my life. Some people didn't want me to continue in radio. So I'm like, okay, for peace and quiet, and maybe it is time to get on with life. And I kid you not, 24 hours after I made the decision to pull the plug on the syndicated radio show that I was doing, that obviously was suspended for the 2005 lockout, 24 hours later, ESPN Radio in Nashville, of all places, calls me up. They had our old sales flyer and demo CD. The Predators called up them because they were the flagship station and said, hey, we want more Predators programming on ESPN if we're going to keep our games on your station. And the program director, thinking quickly, pulls out his bottom drawer, has our folder with our big logo on it, and says, oh, yeah, no, don't worry. We've got these guys.
Perfect.
Didn't even call to ask me or anything like that. Calls me the day later, says, oh, yeah, by the way, we need your show.
We promised it.
A sign from God,
Yeah, it is that sign. I enjoyed your origin story, and that's why we're here right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think it's had a few branches. Whether I'm the villain or the hero depends on who you ask.
Well, we're going to find out, more will be revealed with time if Dubas is going to become the villain or hero here in Pittsburgh. If he can get this rebuild done correctly, eventually. But right now, on the podcast, we did a little restricted free agent talk.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg, St. Louis, and San Jose possibly looking to get that pick back. So their original pick
that was
back.
maybe the new nugget.
Okay.
That Dubas let rip in the podcast, that those teams have called for their draft pick back, trying to reacquire it.
Right.
Because the Penguins do have the 2026 second round pick of St. Louis and Winnipeg. And if those teams were to sign a restricted free agent who cost less than $4.68 million per season, the compensation to the other team is, in fact, that second round pick. So like last summer, the first trade the Penguins participated in was acquiring Kevin Hayes and St. Louis's second round pick, because it was a salary dump by the Blues. And they included that second round pick to make the Penguins, or, to grease the skids for the Penguins to take on Kevin Hayes, whom they otherwise had, not much use for. Well, St. Louis begins to look, and they saw that Edmonton had Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway as restricted free agents, still sitting there in August. So like, wow, we can't sign them without our original pick. So they called up Kyle Dubas, and then they essentially redid the trade. The Penguins gave back St. Louis's 2026 second round pick in exchange, or rather, I guess 2025, in exchange for a 2026 second round pick and another third round pick. So the Penguins kind of made out on that deal. I think that's what people get confused on. You need your original pick.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you have to reacquire it. So we can begin to really deduce what's going on the market. There are only 7 restricted free agents who could be poached with an offer sheet. Let's be honest, 3 or 4 of them, you're not going to sign. You're not going to waste the time or the effort to do that. I'll stop there. But there are a couple at the top of the list who are really worth their salt. Not Craig McTavish. You can tell I'm old. Mason McTavish in Anaheim, top of the list. Marco Rossi, who's been the subject of a ton of trade rumors this summer, he's on the list. And Luke Evangelista in Nashville, kind of a playmaking winger, put up 23 points in 58 games, could be on that list as well as somebody that a team like Winnipeg or St. Louis is really looking at. Oh, I also forgot Connor Zary of Calgary, who's a gritty, speedy, middle six sort of winger. He would be really perfect for Winnipeg or St. Louis. I don't want to limit it either one there. So Dubas kind of let the cat out of the bag that those teams are probably eyeing up, one of those 4 restricted free agents, and they're calling, hey, Kyle, about that second round pick you have of ours. And he said if they're willing to pay a fair price, he's willing to give it back. What a fair price is, I suppose it depends on what you're trying to do with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Any other nuggets on Cam and Strick we got from Kyle Dubas?
That was, I think, the most interesting one in terms of the Penguins rebuild. Cam Janssen was pretty funny, asking him if Evgeny Malkin actually knew his name. There's Gino.
That's a fair question. That is a pretty fair question. What did he say?
He sidestepped that question and said Gino has, a lot deeper thoughts on hockey than a lot of people give him credit for. And that's fair. I will tell you, I'll give you some inside, baseball, some behind the curtain stuff. I have asked Malkin some questions about new guys coming to the team or getting a new line mate, and made the mistake of using their real name. And the general feeling was, after he was done talking, was that he had no idea who I was talking about.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have learned that if you're going to ask Malkin about teammates or other people, you have to use their nickname.
Yeah. Add the Y give you an answer, or the ER at the end of the name.
Yeah, I think I asked him about Ville Koivunen. In fact, I'm almost sure of it. And he kind of, no idea who he was.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you have to say Koivu.
I have no idea what Ville's nickname is. Like, what do you Gravy, maybe? I
don't know.
Yeah, Koivu, that doesn't roll off the tongue whatsoever.
It doesn't, but it very well could be it.
Maybe it's just Ville.
Maybe.
Or VK.
We'll have to investigate this season.
Yeah, I'll get to the bottom of this.
Please do. Well, always appreciate your hockey reporting, Dan, and your hockey knowledge. Dan Kingerski and Julianne Pelusi on the platforms of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.